Okay, so back to Hamapil, and let us begin with a review because it's been a week. I wish there were a way that I could give Mishle Shir every day and a Tefilah Shir every day so that we could have continuity and more Tefilah and more learning. But right now, I don't think that's possible to fit into the schedule. Okay, so let us just skip right to the Abudirham and review everything that we had and then mention questions as we go. Okay, so here we go. So he says, when you go to sleep at night, then you say, I'm not going to read the whole thing again. I'm just going to summarize for the sake of efficiency. So he says, he brought down two explanations for what chevle are. So either chevle means, Hamapil chevle sheina al einai means that God causes portions of sleep to fall upon my eyes, or chevle comes from the phrase, and then that would come from the pasuk in Tehillim. Where did he say it? Chavalim naflu li bani'imim. Okay, portions fell upon me in pleasantness. And the context of that is sleep, because the next pasuk says, Avarech es Hashem asher ya'atani af leilos yisruni filiosai. That I will bless Hashem when I will bless Hashem who advised me. Even at night, my intellect instructs me. So either it means portions of sleep, or it comes from the phrase chevle yoleda, birth travails, or also means spasms of sleep, which is if you don't sleep for a long time, then you start getting all shaky, and so that's the other explanation. Grammatically, we noted that if it means portions, it really should be chavle shena. And also, what does it even mean, portions of sleep? So question number one we have basically is, what is this machlokas here in terms of the phrase chevle shena, and like what are the different implications? Okay, that's question number one and phrase number one. Usunuma alachapai, and slumber to my eyelids. He actually referred to that earlier. That's from Mishle. Do not give sleep to my eyes and slumber to my eyelids. So we actually didn't look this up in context. So let's just look that up really quickly. So the context is Mishle, chapter 6, pasuk 4. So I'm going to read it in the context of the whole paragraph there, and I'm just going to read the English here because I think there's some disagreement as to how you translate stuff. My child, if you have been a guarantor for your friend, if you have given your handshake for a stranger, you have been trapped by the words of your mouth, snared by the words of your mouth. Do this, therefore, my child, and be rescued, for you have come into your fellow's hand. Go humble yourself before him and placate your fellow. Now here's the pasuk. Give not sleep to your eyes, nor slumber to your eyelids. Be rescued like a deer from the hunter's hand, and like a bird from the fowler. So on the surface, this really has nothing to do with the topic of the berachah, right? It's talking about if you accidentally got yourself into a pickle in terms of being a guarantor for your friend, or giving your handshake for a stranger, whatever the case is there, then it's saying you should go and placate him immediately. Don't even sleep. Okay, so the question is like, what does this have to do with the berachah? And just to reiterate with my methodology here, so each of these phrases in Tefilah is derived from a pasuk, and my assumption is that the pasuk is in. It's not just that that the Anshe Knesset Hagdolah borrowed the phrase, but that oftentimes, if not every time, then the context of the pasuk is something we're meant to associate to. Because remember, this is Anshe Knesset Hagdolah. This was, Torah Shebechsav was the only thing written down. So they're referencing these books with the assumption that you're going to associate to their context. So the question is like, what do we get out of this Mishleic dilemma that has to do with the berachah of Hamapil? Okay, so that's another question. Okay, then he says, I didn't highlight this. I realized Hameir Leishon Bas Ayin, who illuminates the pupil of the eye, or who literally, the pupil of the eye, right? Illuminates the pupil. That's from Hazinu Yitzrin Hu Kiishon Eino. He guards it like the pupil of his eye, and he explains there that the Abudirham explains when a person has not slept for a long time, the pupil of their eye darkens or dims, and then when he gets a really a lot of sleep, then his eye lights up. And I guess I'll double check with Joe when he enters, which I assume he's going to enter soon. I think he said he thought it meant that your eyesight dims when you really need sleep. Oh, he's here. Okay. I guess he just disconnected temporarily. I don't know. he assumed it meant that your eyesight dims, and then when you get enough sleep, then you can see clearly. My assumption was that it's talking about like when a person needs sleep, you could really tell, like their eyes look tired, and then when they've gotten a lot of sleep, their eyes are bright, their eyes look fresh. So, question is like, what's the idea there, right? Like, so we've, again, part of this question here is trying to understand the bracha as a whole, and part of it is trying to understand the sequencing. So again, we've got mapil chavlei shina al einai usnuma al hapai, which either means the portions of sleep or the spasms of sleep. We have the association to mishle, don't give sleep to your eyes or slumber to your eyelids, and then we have the one who illuminates the pupil of the eye. All right, then we have the hiratzon, and there's a difference between the hiratzon for mishle. Mishle. There's a difference between the hiratzon in the Gemara, in Nusach Ashkenaz, and in the Rambam. But the Tur and the Gra said that this is something that was added by Rav Amram Gaon. Okay, so this part is not an original part of the bracha. So Yehi Ratzon milchanecha Hashem Elokai v'Elokei Avosai shetashkiveni l'shalom. So may it be favorable before you, Hashem, my God and the God of my fathers, that you cause me to lie down in peace. Hey, so that comes from the pasuk of the, where does it say it? The Shalom Yachtav Eshkavav Ishon. I will, in peace, let me just look that up here. Dalit test, because I don't think we looked this up in context either. Dalit test, we're just reviewing right now. Dalit test. Yeah, in peace and harmony I lie down and sleep. For you, Hashem, will make me dwell solitary and secure. You okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, and then he says, "V'samidini mimena l'chaim u'l'shalom." Oh, I have the source sheets, by the way.
This one I have.
This one you have, okay.
This one I figured that we'd be moving on from. No, I mean, like we did all the sources on that sheet.
Right, but we didn't define anything.
Right.
Yeah. Where is? I do have it. I checked before I came here today.
I have one.
Here we go. Yeah. Right, we're at the Dibra Moscow with the Hiraton. So he said that cause me to rise up from it, l'chaim u'l'shalom. So he says chaim is for the neshama, because when you're asleep, it's like you're dead. And then l'shalom is for the body, because when you're asleep, then you're vulnerable to all these sorts of harms and threats. Then v'al yibahaluni chalamos ra'im v'lo hihurim ra'im. So that's hirhur avera. And chalom ra, we just said, is unpleasant, or it could cause you to be, it could disrupt your sleep and cause you to not get as much out of your sleep as you should. V'tiyeh mitasi shlema is for if you have tashmish hamita, may your offspring, may it be God's will that your offspring is not puzzle like Abraham or Yitzchak, but rather it should be like Yaakov, which is where the phrase mita shlema is used. So that's all part of the Hiraton. And our question basically was like, what is this Hiraton even doing here? How can Rav Amram go and add it? What does this have to do with? What does it have to do with the theme of the bracha? Right. The theme of the bracha is the need for sleep and the and waking up. These things kind of extend beyond that, especially according to the version that is stated in our actual Gemara, which is, v'sein chelki b'torah secha, v'targelin l'dei mitzvah, v'al-targelin l'devar avera, v'al-tvina l'dei chet, v'lo l'dei avon, v'lo l'dei nisayon, v'lo l'dei bizayon, v'yishal b'yitzer tov, v'yishal b'yitzer ra, v'tatzalinu mi'pega ra, v'mechalayim ra'im. All these things don't seem to have to do with sleeping, right? This has to do with stuff during the day. And then finally we conclude with v'ha'ira einei pein ishan amaves, illuminate my eyes lest I sleep death, which means that's just a request to not die in your sleep. And then he concludes, or according to the Rama, and he says, the Abudirham says that means, wake me up from my bed, let me get up from my bed into the light of day to go about my needs and my occupations, my involvements. Yeah. Okay, so the question we have, again, a general question, which is going to have to be tested by the particular. General question is just, what's the main idea of the bracha, and how does each component of the bracha express that main idea, and what's the sequencing? And then we have our particular questions about Chavlei Sheina, the two translations. We have the question of what is the Mishlei pasuk doing there? How can Rav Amram go and add all these things? And Yeah. Okay, so that's end of the review. We got 18 minutes. Yeah. Okay, so what do you say? You want to go in sequence? You want to try theorizing about the bracha as a whole? Isaac, you want a source sheet?
Yeah.
Okay. You passed that, or yeah.
Maybe like piece by piece, and then we'll.
Okay. Was piece by piece a reference to the bundles of sleep, portions of sleep? Piece by piece, yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's try that first. Okay, what's the deal with portions of sleep versus spasms of sleep? And why would we refer to spasms? Because presumably you're not going 3 nights without sleeping when you say this bracha. So why are we referencing that? And again, and the Mishlaic pasuk is part of that that same phrase. I think we should treat that as one unit. So why are we referencing this thing about like go placate your friend, don't even sleep? That just is a weird thing to reference that doesn't intrinsically have to do with sleep. The Mishlai describes this situation where like you got yourself in some sort of sketchy financial deal with your friend, and says you should go placate him and don't even give sleep to your eyes and slumber for your eyelids. Go immediately humble yourself before him. Yeah. And so what we were saying that doesn't like, okay, fine, the phrase tenuma al afapai comes from that, but like that's a weird, like are we supposed to think about that Mishlaic context?
Like, are we doing that for God? Kind of?
Yeah, so that would be a possibility, right? Could we
Right.
elaborate on that? I mean, it's weird because in the case of Mishlai, it's saying act and don't sleep.
Right. Well, we are acting before we sleep. Like,
Right.
Recognizing this. And then
That's true.
Here we don't have a sexual relationship.
We don't have a sexual relation, right? Yeah.
We definitely are dependent on him and have to help him.
That's also true. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Yeah. Yeah, I think the thing that's weird, that is striking me as weird about that is in the Mishlai, again, obviously we're not taking all the elements of Mishlai, but in Mishlai it's like act now and don't sleep, and there's a sense of urgency. And here, even if you want to use that model for relating to God, that there should be a sense of urgency, it's weird because it's like we're not hurrying to go to sleep, you know? And the pasuk is saying don't sleep, and this is saying you should sleep. So like there's something that's just
right. It's a law.
Exactly. It's a little off. Like I feel like the analogy is good in terms of a model of avodas Hashem, but something about the use of it is a little off.
Okay. What exactly are the portions of sleep?
That's going to be another question, right? So we said one possibility is like in the night, like Joe, you said REM cycle, right? Which you know, I mean, even back then, what was the Talmudic equivalent of REM cycles? They had the Ashmoros, right? That there would be different watches in the night, and like I guess I don't know if they would actually wake up, you know, everyone or whatever, but you know, there's different portions of time that you sleep at night, you know. That could be, I don't know, like because like the Rambam talks about Hilchos Talmud Torah, like waking up in the middle of the night to learn Torah. There's like waking up at certain watches to do misabel on the Churban, you know. Another possibility is just it's referring not to portions of sleep within one night, but you sleep every night.
Oh,
like your sleep is not something that is that is constant. It comes to you in portions. I got one portion tonight, one portion tomorrow night.
I mean, isn't that every activity though? Like,
yes.
breathing.
Yeah, but I think I think we can explain it. And by the way, I'll give you a hint. I think the Abudirham actually answers our question and gives us what we need. Oh, sorry, we forgot one. The Midrash he quotes. Amar Rabbi Yishimon ben Elazar v'hinei tov ma'od zoshena. Right? That when it says tov ma'od be'breshis, that means it's referring to sleep. And then he asked the question, shena tova ma'od. So is sleep really that good? Didn't we learn that wine and sleep are pleasant for the Rishayim and pleasant for the world? But that's only for the Rishayim. And then the answer is, no, rather when you sleep, you become refreshed and you can exert yourself in Torah. So that's another question, is why he throws that in.
It does seem like all these things are kind of pointing toward like somehow. I mean, I'm not sure exactly, but like pointing toward like you know, like it's like framing our sleep in terms
Yes.
of
Okay. Excellent observation. Okay, that I think is true of the entire bracha. Is that it's trying to frame our sleep in terms of avodas Hashem. Okay, and I'm actually gonna I'll tell you what I think the answer is for this first part, because it flows directly from that. So the Abudirham says, "V'anu mevarachim al hashena mipnei shehi mitzarchei bnei adam." Okay, and this is, you can find that this is a common theme in brachos, especially birchos hoda'ah, which are on like activities that we do. So there are things that we do every day, and that or things that happen to us every day, or things that happen to us from time to time. And without bracha, so then the thing just happens to you, and you frame it based on your own personal categories, or you don't even frame it. You just don't even think about it as a thing. You just take it for granted. Okay. So what all of these brachos are trying to do is seize upon this phenomenon and then frame it in a way that leads us to Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem and Zechiras Hashem. Okay. So here, what we're doing is sleep is something that is tzarchei b'nei adam. It's a need. You're going to sleep. Not you're going to sleep. You are inevitably going to sleep, right? And the question is, how are you going to frame it? Okay. So how would you frame it by default without a bracha?
Like without and not.
Let's say, like, how does the average human being frame going to sleep?
I need this to. Whatever, just like kind of reset.
Okay, so one is just the stam. I need this to reset.
Like the ceasing of activity.
And the other is like it's the end of the day, right? It's the the end of my day, and I need to rest, or like I need an escape. So like I'm not saying that these are the only ones, but like these are possibilities. So what we're trying to do in this bracha is recognize that sleep is a need that's part of our design. Okay, that this is part of the way that we were designed, and that it should not just be a need to reset for the sake of going about our own activities. According to the Abudirham, what is he framing it that it should be a reset for? Serving God. Okay, right? And he mentions specifically like Yigia B'Torah, right? His exertion in Torah. So I think, let me just actually divide this into two parts. So I think this explains the machlokas about how to translate chevlei sheina, portions of sleep or spasms of sleep. What would you say based on that? And I think the key is tzarchei b'nei adam here.
Yeah, spasms.
Why?
Because if you don't sleep, you will end up spazzing.
Right, exactly, right? So and what about portions?
I guess you kind of need sleep in pieces.
Yeah.
You can't just sleep for like 7 days and then just be good for the next couple weeks.
Right. So here's how I'd frame it, right? Is that whenever you talk about any tzorchei b'nei adam, and this is what you said this is like any need. Tzorchei b'nei adam have two qualities. One is that they're regular, right? You need to eat every once in a while. You need to drink every once in a while. You need to sleep every once in a while. And the other feature of them is if you don't satisfy them, then you get symptoms, So both. That's why I don't really think that this is a tremendous machlokus. It's just a question of, in other words, both sides hold that hamapil chavlei sheina al einai is framing sleep as a need, and it's just a question of like how are we framing it? Are we framing it in terms of the quality of the regularity, or the quality of it's a need, and therefore if I don't satisfy it, then I'm going to suffer. And I think that's also why that's the context in Mishlei, which is, this has nothing to do with going and placating your friend, but in the context of Mishlei, what point is Shlomo making? Shlomo saying when he says, go placate your friend, don't even sleep.
That sleep is a tremendous need.
Sleep is a tremendous need, and you should totally prioritize this over you should prioritize placating your friend over even your basic needs, So the whole framework is like sleep is a need, okay? And that's how we start off the bracha, okay? And I want to complement this. Does that make sense? Like, is it?
Yeah. It just seems like a complete side point in the Mishlei thing.
Like, yeah. So the quality that it's getting from the Mishlei thing is that sleep is a fundamental need that you shouldn't ignore, but in this case, you should ignore it. Okay. So it's emphasizing like the need to sleep. Yeah, I don't think it's going beyond that.
Right.
Yeah, and this is a question in our methodology. When we find a pasuk in its context, we have to assess like how essential is the pasuk to the idea, and how much of it is just borrowing a quality or a word. You know, that's something we're gonna have to like figure out on a case-to-case basis. Yeah. Now, just going back on the other part of the Avodas Hashem thing. So I'm going to read a Rambam here. If you want, you can look along, but if not, then you can just listen. So it's in Hilchos Deos. It's not on here. I forgot to put it on there. It's in Hilchos Deos. There's a Rambam here if you want to grab it. Or, oops, sorry. Deos Perik Gimel in Sefer Hamada. Okay, so this is so it's in the numbers. It is Beis, halacha Beis. Person needs to orient a bilvad. Person needs to orient all of his actions in order to know Hashem alone. Meaning that should be the sole purpose of all your actions. And everything, your sitting, your standing, your speech, everything should be for that sake. Ketzad. So he gives examples, and I'm just going to paraphrase these examples. When you do business, it shouldn't just be to make money. It should be to get your bodily needs. Okay. Then when you take care of your bodily needs, like eating and drinking and bia, that shouldn't just be for pleasure. It should be to give your body what it needs so that you can be healthy to serve Hashem. Okay, that's what he says later on in there. And then he, then Gimel. Gimel's the part we're going to read in whole. Someone who conducts himself according to the dictates of health. If your only goal is so that your body should be perfect and strong, and so you can produce kids who do child labor for you. This is not good. So rather, you should intend that your body should be strong and complete, so that your soul could be straight to know God. Because it's impossible to contemplate and cognize chachmos, sciences, if you're sick or one of your limbs is in pain. You should intend to have a son, not as child labor, but so that he should be a chacham and a gadol b'Yisrael. I don't know why he does the child labor thing as like a thing. Yeah. Anyway.
Also, did people think that, like, I guess they thought that if you like exercise a lot, then you'll have healthy kids. Like that, like you're.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
You can transfer that on.
Yeah. I mean, to a certain extent, it's true.
That was like an early element of, like, before the theory of evolution by Darwin.
Yeah.
An earlier theory was that it would happen based on changes that happened to the animal in its life.
Yeah. Right. Very, very micro evolution.
Right.
Yeah.
But like if a giraffe lost a leg, its kid would have 3 legs.
Interesting. All right. Yeah, I did not know that.
I see that.
I don't think they were so rigorous with the scientific method. Yeah. Okay. Nimsa hamahalech b'derech zo kol yamav kulan ovid es Hashem tamid. Someone who follows this path all of his days serves Hashem constantly. Filu b'shah shu nosev v'nosein, even at a time when he's doing business. Filu b'shah shaboil, even when he's having intercourse. Mivnei shema chashavta b'kol kadei shimsa tzrachav kadei sheyeh gufo shalom la'avodas Hashem, because his plan and everything is that he finds his needs so that his body is perfect to serve Hashem. Now here's where he brings in our point. Filu b'shah shu yashin, even when he sleeps. Im yashin ladas kadesha tanuach da'ato alav. If he sleeps in order to rest his mind, v'yanuach gufo, and to rest his body, kadesha lo yechla, so he doesn't become sick. V'lo yuchol avodas Hashem behuchol, because you can't serve Hashem when you're sick. Nimseis sheina shalo avodah l'makom berachah. Then it turns out his sleep will be a service to God. That's what Chachamim, the Chazal, meant when they said all your actions should be for the sake of heaven. And that's what Shlomo meant when he said, in all your ways you should know Hashem. So what we're trying to do with this bracha is recognize that sleep is a need, but it's not a need for the sake of your physical well-being alone. It's a need for the sake of regenerating yourself, rejuvenating yourself to serve Hashem. Okay, and that's, I think, why this is my friend Rabbi Trachman said. That's why he think that's his theory about why the Rambam says this is the first of the brachas hashachar, right? Because the first step you do, in other words, if you didn't, I mean, you can conceive of it the other way also, but like you go to sleep not as the end of your day, but as the beginning of a day of avodas Hashem the next day, rejuvenating yourself so that you could serve Hashem the next day. And this also somewhat, even though we have to explain a little bit more, somewhat explains what all the Hiratzon is doing here, especially according to the Gemara, the lengthy one, right?
Oh, yeah. Because this, like, it's all about how you're going to be using sleep for the next day.
It's all about how you're using sleep for the next day. And so it actually does fit into the theme, not the main theme, which is the sleep as a tzorach b'nei Adam, but once you're involved in thinking about sleep as a preparation for your next day, so it is natural to then ask Hashem, take that opportunity to ask Hashem for success in your avodas Hashem the next day. We still have to figure out how he can justify just adding this in, and how far do you take it? But yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's a good place to stop for today because I have to go at 9, and then we'll try to finish it tomorrow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.